There's various ways to PvP in the current meta. You can spend hours farming up to get the endgame gear with the best weapons and the best armor, but if you die, you lose a lot. Metal armor is not cheap. Both pieces together cost 14 sewing kits and 40 high qual. That can be several mid-tier gear sets and several weapons worth of HQ. Granted, if you're smart and skillful with the AK, you will do well in PvP, but eventually you will die. And when you die, that's a big loss. Even several days into a wipe, not everyone will roam with endgame gear, so there's no guarantee you will make back what you lost from the time spent using that gear. The more common option is to roam with mid-tier gear, semis, SMGs, pythons, road armor, and hazmats. It's not as good as endgame gear, but it's a lot cheaper on high quality and doesn't cost too many sewing kits. The issue is now that you're at the disadvantage when it comes to fighting against endgame gear. The AK dominates at all ranges, the bolt is able to one-shot you, you have weaker weapons, so unless you play smart, hit all your shots, or get yourself in an advantageous situation, you're going to probably lose against endgame players. The third option is to roam with low tier gear, revolvers, shotguns, and little if not no armor at all. The weapons here aren't outstanding, but they can still get you kills. The double barrel, for example, can easily kill anyone if you hit enough pellets with both shots at close range. Even with the best armor, it's a force to be reckoned with once you get close enough. Though you're limited to a close range, so you don't adapt as well to all situations. Despite this, you aren't risking very much when you go out with this gear. It's actually a very smart method to come with nothing but a double barrel to messy firefights to have a chance to come back with high tier gear. If you do this, forest and rocky areas are outstanding as they open lots of opportunities for ambushing. For most people, that's about it. Endgame, mid-tier, and early tiers of weapons and armor. But actually there's a fourth tier, or more accurately, a fourth playstyle that fits the gap of mid-tier and endgame. Firstly, we'll go with a weapon of choice. The AK is good, but it's too expensive, especially when high quality. The semi is basically a weaker AK, but you can't stand up shoot and the time to kill is a bit slow. The P2 is pretty much a close range semi. The Python is actually like an AK, but you spend 2 weeks reloading for each fight, and you're dead if you miss some of your shots while up close. The Thompson and the Custom are actually good candidates. They have a fast time to kill, large clips, you can stand up shoot, and they don't take that much to craft. Though the better choice is actually the MP5. The Custom can also use a laser, but the lower damage makes it perform badly at a range, not to mention it has a higher field of view. About the pattern, I'm in the small minority that believes that MP5 is actually just as easy to control as the other SMGs. I'll demonstrate. When you shoot the SMGs, they jump a little to the left and to the right, which is pretty simple. When you shoot the MP5, it jumps a bit more to the left and then jumps all around. This is why people think it's hard, though you don't need to worry about it. Just shoot the first 6 to 7 shots. It's practically not even a pattern. What about compared to the other guns? The MP5 actually has very similar DPS to the AK. It has lower damage at 35 per shot, but the monstrous 600 rounds per minute balances it out. It has a pretty bad velocity, so it won't do very good at longer ranges, and it will be limited to close to medium range. Despite this, at these distances you will practically have an AK with a third of the cost, and a very easy pattern to control. Then, there's armor. People will often think that simply the higher protection the better, and that's true, though when it comes to endgame armor, the cost and effectiveness are terrible. The road sign jacket costs 3 road sign and 3 sewing kits, practically 3 high call and 3 sewing kits, and it gives you 20% protection. However, the metal chest costs 25 high quality and 8 sewing kits for 25 protection. That is a huge cost for just 5% more protection. Granted, the metal chest has twice the durability, but repairing is extremely cheap and you usually end up dying before your road jacket breaks. So what do you use if more protection isn't necessarily better in terms of cost effectiveness? I propose bullets to kill, or BTK. I made a spreadsheet of various armor combinations and calculated the bullets to kill from various guns for each of them. And then, based off of how many bullets it took to kill, I gave each set a protection rating. When calculating, I changed health to be at 120 instead of 100. This is because for almost every situation, your weapon does slightly less damage due to distance drop-off. Some shots will also hit the leg, which does less damage as well. The results were interesting, and explains why the hazmat suit is so good in the current meta. Simply put, the absolute best armor isn't that much better when compared to armor at the range of 30 to 35%. When you have 35%, you're only missing out on surviving an extra shot from the Python and the Vaults. 35% is mid-tier armor. This doesn't mean high-tier armor is bad, but it just goes to show how tremendously cost-effective mid-tier armor is. I encourage you to look at this sheet and even test out different armor for yourself. So for armor, I decided to go with the burlap shirt and pants, the road jacket, road kilt, and glove, which provides 35% protection, or a protection rating of 11, with 12 being the highest. For the helmet, I chose the coffee can with 35% protection, and a rating of 6 with 7 being the highest. So, the cost-effective set comprises of a coffee can, burlap clothing, road armor, leather gloves, an MP5, a laser sight, 128 bullets, 10 syringes, and 10 bandages. This comes at a cost of 7 sewing kits, 18 high quality, 1 tech trash, and 1 SMG body, 4 road signs, 2 springs, 245 cloth, and 320 sulfur. The important costs are the sewing kits, cloth, and high quality, and this is quite a bit, but it's not a lot. It is decently cost effective for sewing kits and very cost effective on high qual when compared to an AK set. It's worth noting that the hoodie and pants cost a sewing kit and 4 times as much cloth for 5% more protection when compared to burlap. So if you're low on cloth, don't feel bad for using burlap or leather clothing. You're not missing out on much anyway if you reach 35% protection for the chest. I hope this gave you some helpful info about the current state of armor, and will encourage you to use the underrated MP5. I also hope it's reasonable enough to explain why the hazmat is so good, and why it's not overpowered, though that's a topic for a different day.